Welcome back to another explainer. So, what if I told you that one surprisingly simple habit could completely flip your financial future upside down? And honestly, the best part, it literally costs you nothing to start. Look, a lot of us feel like we just don't earn enough money to actually build wealth. And hey, it is totally fair to feel that way. But today, we're digging into a fascinating source that tested a really unique hypothesis, tracking every single dollar spent for 30 straight days. We're talking every coffee, every late-night food delivery, every sneaky digital subscription. The results of this experiment didn't just help with saving a few bucks, they actually exposed the exact reason why so many people stay broke without even realizing it.
Right, let's jump straight into this. Seriously, where does your money disappear to every month? It's this massive mystery we've all faced, right? I mean, you get your paycheck, you pay a couple of bills, grab some groceries, and suddenly you're staring at your banking app wondering how on earth you're already back to near zero. That feeling of living paycheck to paycheck, it's incredibly common, it's super frustrating, and honestly, it's exhausting. Well, this explainer is going to help us finally solve that exact mystery.
When we run out of cash, it's human nature to point fingers at outside forces. We love to blame inflation, or the crazy price of groceries these days, or just the fact that our paychecks aren't big enough. And sure, those are very real economic factors, but the source material makes a brilliant point. For a lot of us, the real culprit is entirely different. It's unconscious spending. It's a complete lack of awareness. Basically, we're bleeding cash in places we aren't even looking.
So to really put this theory to the test, the author took on the 30-day tracking challenge, literally recording every single dollar. The rules for this were incredibly simple, but man, they were rigorous. You could use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or just a free app on your phone, but there was one strictly non-negotiable rule. Absolutely nothing is too small to record. A pack of gum? Tracked. A random parking meter? Tracked. And as they got into this, they hit this huge psychological wall pretty early on. There's this quote that just perfectly captures it. I thought the hardest part would be saving money. It turned out the hardest part was facing the truth. I just absolutely love that. It proves this whole exercise isn't some dry, boring financial seminar about math. It's this deeply revealing journey of self-discovery. The math itself is easy. It's looking in the mirror at our own habits that's the real challenge here.
And that brings us directly to week 1 of the experiment, uncovering the hidden leaks.
The very first phase of this whole investigation was all about exposing those unconscious autopilot habits. We're talking about the sheer convenience of ordering food delivery because you're just too tired to cook, or those random mid-afternoon snacks, or calling a rideshare when you probably could have walked. Oh, and the absolute mountain of streaming subscriptions that just fly right under the radar. This phase brilliantly illustrates why these tiny leaks matter so much. $4? That doesn't sound like a big deal when you're tapping your card at the register, but let's scale that math up. A daily $4 habit, like that artisanal iced latte you practically inhale without even tasting anymore, snowballs into more than $120 in a single month. That is the literal definition of lifestyle inflation. We slowly upgrade our daily conveniences, and they quietly just chew through a massive percentage of our hard-earned cash. By week 2, the experiment shifted its focus to something even deeper, the emotional spending trap. Once that tracking habit actually forced them to pause before every single purchase, they realized something wild. A huge chunk of their spending had absolutely nothing to do with basic needs. It was entirely psychological. Think about it. We swipe our cards because we're stressed out after a long day at work. We buy random stuff online simply because we're bored on the couch. Sometimes we spend just to celebrate being happy. And of course, there's the whole social media influence and FOMO, the fear of missing out. Marketers totally know how human psychology works, and they literally designed advertising to trigger these impulse purchases exactly when our emotional guard is down. Which leads us to this incredibly relatable confession from the source. I wasn't buying things because I needed them. I was buying them because I wanted to feel better for 5 minutes. I mean, wow. Think about how powerful that is. This emotional trap is a universal blind spot for almost all of us. We're essentially using our debit cards to buy these tiny, fleeting hits of dopamine, and we're doing it at the extreme expense of our long-term financial security.
Okay, so let's move to the real climax of this explainer and look at the biggest surprise of all, the monthly breakdown.
We've talked about the hidden leaks and the emotional triggers, but what actually happens when you tally it all up? At the end of the 30 days, the results were honestly nothing short of shocking. Let's just run through the actual numbers here and see how these minor lifestyle leaks accumulate. $280 on restaurants, $110 on coffee alone, $85 on random digital subscriptions that were mostly forgotten about anyway, $220 on random shopping, $170 on extra transportation, and $140 on completely miscellaneous stuff.
Now, none of these individual purchases felt like a big deal in the moment. But when you add it all up, you hit this massive aha moment. More than $700 in total unnecessary monthly spending. Let the sheer size of that number sink in for a second. Over $700. And this wasn't money spent on rent or basic groceries or, keeping the lights on. This was pure waste. Money just evaporating from their wallet simply because they weren't paying attention. But here is the crucial point. It's what you actually do with that information. The formula for turning this around is surprisingly simple. Small savings plus disciplined investing equals compounding growth. The source makes a great point that you don't even need to save that entire $700 to completely change your life. Even if you just took a fraction of that amount each month and directed it toward disciplined investing, the mathematical power of compounding growth would yield incredible returns over a decade or two. So really, it's not about restriction. It's about redirection. So what really changed after the 30 days? Let's break down the core lessons for financial freedom. Look, the goal of tracking your expenses isn't to just make you feel guilty forever. The goal is to permanently shift your behavior and lay down a solid foundation for genuine financial freedom. The author pulled 5 core lessons from this whole experiment. Number 1, awareness changes behavior, all on its own. Number 2, as we definitely just saw, small expenses matter immensely. Number 3, and this one's huge, budgeting isn't a punishment, it is a tool for clarity. Number 4, you literally cannot invest until you control your spending. And finally, number 5, financial freedom isn't some lottery ticket, it is built day by day through consistent habits.
So if you want to reclaim control over your own financial future right now, here are 5 exact, totally actionable steps you can take today. 1, start using a 24-hour waiting rule for non-essential purchases. That'll till emotional spending right in its tracks. 2, audit and cancel those ghost subscriptions immediately. 3, try meal prepping a bit more often to avoid falling into the restaurant trap. 4, set up automatic transfers to your savings or investment accounts so the money is just out of sight, out of mind. And 5, do a quick review of your spending every single week to keep yourself accountable.
And that brings us to the ultimate thesis of this entire explainer. The simple act of tracking every single dollar for 30 days didn't instantly make the author rich overnight. But what it did do was give them the ultimate tool, clarity. Most people don't actually have a money problem. What they have is an awareness problem. And the fantastic news here is that, unlike inflation or taxes, your own awareness is entirely within your power to change, starting today.
I really want to leave you with this one provocative question to chew on today. What is one expense quietly draining your wallet right now? Because we all have blind spots. We've all got that one emotional trigger or super convenient habit that is slowly siphoning away our financial freedom. Imagine exactly where you could be 1 year from now if you just started tracking your spending today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.